Hey guys, I'm Dan and welcome to my old CJ5. I've been meaning to put a video together nearly for 2 years now, and I've just never come around to doing it. But I've wanted to do it for several reasons. CJ5s are a interesting vehicle. You love them, you hate them, you spend more time under them than in them. But I wanted to put a video together just to run through some things that I have done to the car myself, and things that I struggled with over time. Fine-tuning things, drive line, caster angles, steering issues. These cars are a wonderful thing. They're enjoyable. There's nothing else like taking the top off, putting the front windscreen down and going for a beautiful drive to nowhere, just driving around and wasting petrol. But there are things that have bothered me over the years of owning this car, where you just don't feel comfortable. Or look, I'm a perfectionist, but there are things that just, whether it's steering, death wobble, brakes, it was problem after problem. But just to go back, I picked this up nearly 2 years ago now, up on a farm in far north Queensland. I used to own a mini moke, and my wife and I loved that and cherished it, but due to unforeseen circumstances we did have to sell that once upon a time. And I always wanted something that was very similar, preferably four-wheel drive, and I see this as a big moke. They're small, short wheelbase, open vehicle. We live up here in Port Douglas, Queensland, so the weather, as you can see, is beautiful 9 to 10 months of the year, besides our wet season. So an open vehicle is preferable, and I love old. Don't get me wrong, I love things about new cars, but there's something about driving an old mechanical vehicle with no electronics, no power brakes, no power steering, gauges that don't work. There's just something about it, the smell of the engine turning on. They're things that I love. But again, I just wanted to put this video together to just run through some things that maybe some viewers have issues with as well. And I see it a lot on online forums or Facebook groups, or there's just people complaining about steering, vibration, and there's things I've learned. I didn't know much about cars when I bought this, I'll be honest with you. I knew, how to drive one, and I knew how to change the oil, and that was about it. But this Jeep has taught me everything about cars, because if I would have had to put this thing into the mechanic, I'd be broke. So over time, you slowly accumulate a ton of tools that you never thought you'd have. And you learn to do it yourself, and it's taught me so much. I'll be honest with you, I didn't really understand what a leaf spring was 2 years ago. Things like that, I didn't know what a wheel cylinder was 2 years ago. I didn't know what a shackle was 2 years ago. But as I said, if I would have had to put this into the mechanic every time there was an issue, there's just no point in maybe owning it, because I wouldn't be able to afford it. So I've had to learn to do everything, or most of the things on my own. So this video, I'm going to run through a few things, but in moving forward over the next couple of weeks, I'll put together some detailed videos of the issues that I've experienced with the car, probably more also safety issues, the main one being death wobble. This thing at 80-90 kilometers an hour used to just be white knuckle. I was saying my prayers on the highway. But I want this vehicle to be able to tackle those roads. I know they're an off-road vehicle, but up here there's still quite a fair few highways. And as much as I love going off-road, I have to be on-road to get to places. And I just wanted to feel comfortable. I didn't want to get some poo stains on my undies every time I hopped in this and then went over 60 kilometers an hour. So anyway, I've rectified all this now. And as I said, over time, I've learnt the issues, I've dealt with the issues, I've dreaded doing some of the work myself, but it is possible. And anyone out there that thinks, I'm not a mechanic or whatever, you can do it. You just got to learn, be patient, take your time, and it's also understanding. I think if I could give any advice, it's understanding how the vehicle works. And they are a rare vehicle. They're light, they're a short wheelbase. They're, they are meant for off-road. And, anyway, let's run through it. Just to let you know, it's a 1974 CJ5. I've got a 232 inline six that ticks like nothing else. I'm still working on that. I understand the issues, why it's ticking, but a lot of AMC 232s, similar to the 258, they're basically the same engine. I think there's a huge difference, but there is a difference. Look, it's a great motor. It's the original motor that came in this car. It ticks like nothing else once it's warmed up, mind you. I have been able to add a few different fluids in there that has minimized that. It revs like nothing else. Obviously it's a 3-speed, so if I'm on the highway doing 70, 80, 90 kilometers an hour, the RPM's at 2,500. But it just keeps putting along. I've never had issues starting the car. I do try to give the carburetor a bit of a tune every now and then, depending on the weather as well. Up here we have, cooler months, hotter months, and it seems to really change the carburetor settings, so leaner, richer, etc. But yeah, look, it's a very reliable car. It will always start. But yeah, 3-speed, 232 AMC. I've just got the 2 seats in it, no seats in the back. Issues that I've faced with this vehicle: driveline, vibration over 50 kilometers an hour. I understand that the previous owner did a shackle lift and a suspension lift, but it buggered the driveline angle. More so, I think the drive shaft was too short. I checked my angles and the angles seemed to be alright, but I think the original drive shaft that was in this car was just too short for the lift. And I spent months understanding driveline angles and the angle of the transfer case and the rear drive shaft. All that seemed to make sense. And then I figured out it was just a short drive shaft. But in the meantime, I went online and looked up double carbon drive shafts. So, I did that. I ordered a custom-made double carbon drive shaft. In order to do that, I needed to change, obviously, the yoke and, for it to fit the double carbon and the rear axle towards the transfer case. So it has to be pointing up. A lot of people, I understand, do it the proper way and cut off the perch and re-put it on at the correct angle. I did use shims. I used 8-degree shims. So I've now got the rear pinion facing up. That got rid of all vibrations. It was like driving a new car. It was incredible. But I'll run through that in another episode in more detail. Driveline issues was another one. Sorry, not driveline issues. Just steering issues, death wobble. I did everything at the front end. I put new tie rods, drag links, wheel bearings, wheel alignment. I put heavy duty shackles on, thinking it was the shackles, that there was some movement. I went through absolutely everything, tire pressures, everything, to try and understand why this thing would just dart all over the road. And it drove me crazy. It nearly made me not want to drive it over 60 kilometers an hour. And as I said, I spent 2 years just going, what do I do here? Everything's been replaced. Anyway, it ended up being, which a lot of people said over time, but I just never paid attention to it, it ended up being caster angle. And understanding caster angle is really important. Because of your shackle lift, your caster angle's going to change. So if anyone's out there going, I've got death wobble, my CJ5's all over the road, I'm telling you now, there's a 95% chance, if everything's tight down there, there's a 95% chance that it is your caster angle. And we should be sitting at 6 degrees positive. Mine was at 1. And that is due to the shackles. If I could turn back time, and even before the previous owner, I would not lift the CJ5. I think they were built the way they were for a reason, and they drove beautifully out of the factory. But look, I understand people own these over time and want to, lift them, do this, do that. But CJ5s, they're just, they're short. they're a short wheelbase, they're a small light vehicle, and if you're using it for trails and going off-road only, then by all means go lift it, but it causes so many issues. It causes driveline vibration, it causes steering issues, and there's so much more you have to do to then get your vehicle right. So I'm sort of correcting the previous owner's lifts and this and that, and but I'm just happy I figured it out. So as I said, you got a driveline issue and a steering issue. Check your drive shaft. Make sure your drive shaft is A, long enough. B, you might need a double carbon drive shaft. Maybe even do that anyway. Buy yourself a heavy duty drive shaft. Put that in. Vibration's gone. I had bad vibrations. The whole car was vibrating anything above 60k an hour. It was insane. I didn't know any better. So I thought, this is just how the car is. But then when I put the double cardan in, bam, it was like driving Mercedes-Benz. So smooth. And yeah, shackle lifts. If you haven't got one, don't do one. Do it the proper way. Get a suspension lift. It doesn't really then alter your caster too much, from what I know. But yeah, check your caster angles. So just recently I put in, I should have put in 5-degree shims, but I put in 4-degree shims on the front. And I'll run through that in another episode, how to do it, especially if you're not a mechanic or you don't know what you're doing, just where to put the jacks, where to lift it, understanding the physics of doing it, because, it can be dangerous. So you want to do it the right way and have all your safety things sorted out. But yeah, now it's running a lot better. It is, I can drive one hand, no vibration issues. Anyway, let's check out more of the car, and I'll just dart around the car and show you what it's all about. So, fuel gauge does not work. This temperature gauge does not work, but I do have a temperature gauge put in right there. I put in my tack just there. By the way, anyone looking for a phone mount, these car mounts here are absolutely amazing. You can go off-road any bump and that thing will hold your phone. Fantastic. Speedo. Back in the day, the Speedo used to just bounce and bounce and bounce around. I tried everything to fix the original Speedo. Or the speed cable. I oiled it, I lubed it, nothing helped. So I did end up buying a new Speedo cable. It does not bounce anymore, but I'm 15 kilometers an hour off. So if I'm doing 80, I know I'm doing about, if I'm doing 80, I'm doing about 95 kilometers an hour. So it's just 15k off with anything I do. Oil pressure. This is a strange one. Oil pressure, mine sits at start at around 45 to 50 psi, and it doesn't really move around a lot. I think I need a new oil pressure gauge or a new actual, oil pressure thing on the motor. I just need to replace that and look at that, because I just don't think it's right. At hot, after a few hours on this 232 AMC, I'm still getting about 30 psi at idle, which isn't too bad. I see a lot of and read a lot about people going, mine's sitting at 13, 15 psi. This one hasn't been, too bad, unless there's something wrong with the gauge. I'm not sure. That's my original Jeep key, just there. That is the only original Jeep key I have, and it's the only key I have. So, I should get another one of those made. Yeah, light switch. We all know what that does. That works. That's my air horn. That here, washer wiper. Yeah, that's been a tricky one lately. It used to park. It used to go back to its original position. It doesn't anymore, and just recently I have had some issues with the switch here. So it's been going a bit slow. I checked the grounds and everything like that. I think it's the actual switch itself, but the wipers were going really slow. So I re-grounded it. Seems to work a bit better. These cars with their ground is they're very sensitive. So if you've ever got electrical issues, switch issues, even the indicator here, I had a ground issue where yeah, it was just, the indicators were constantly flashing and everyone's saying, oh, it's ground, it's this, it's this. The switch in here was actually dirty. So I sprayed some brake cleaner in there, and obviously that fixed the grounding. But yeah, as I parked the car back in the day, only the rear blinkers were blinking on their own, which I found odd. But yeah, so that's fixed now. Brake cleaner in there. I took all this apart, cleaned that up. So if anyone's got, you know, blinkers that are blinking on their own or they're not working properly, just check that switch in here. It's just, there's just a few screws just there. Take that off, check the wiring. That is that. Now here's a great story. My wife's grandfather just recently passed. He was an old Navy man, and this is his service number. So we've just had that put on there out of respect, and he made it to 101 and a half years of age. And he's he was the last survivor on the HMAS back in the day. Over here, I picked this up for 25 bucks. And it's a perfect fit right for the back of you. So it's an old ammo box. Keep my tools. Yeah, so I keep my tools in here. What have I got here? Grease, spare cloths, carb spray. I've got everything in this car that I can repair the car on the side of the road. Like absolutely everything. Could even get rid of a bit of rust. I've got some lube spray. Lube always comes in handy, as you know. Clamps, gear oil, in case electrics bugger up, I've got that here. Fishing stuff. In here I've got a whole bag of just random bolts and nuts that have come off this car over time. So I've got spare spark plugs there. Now I'll tell you a story about this. Here, let's see if I can find the original. I was driving along one day doing 60k an hour, and this is what I mean about the drive shaft. It was too short and it was pulling at the yoke nut, and we're driving along and I hear bang, and the yoke nut actually flew off at 60k an hour, and the drive shaft came off, and we just heard a loud bang. And that was back then. I just got the vehicle. I didn't even know what a drive shaft was. But yeah, so I got a new nut. They're actually quite hard to find, especially in Australia. As you guys know, anyone from Australia watching, it is just hard to get parts in Australia for these cars. But Brett from Jeep City, Australia, anyone watching that needs Jeep parts, Brett, absolute legend. He's helped me a lot with tie rod ends, nuts like this, you know, overnight, express post, he does it. Brett, you're an absolute legend. Thank you for all your help. I know I'm annoying. I text you at random times of the evening, all random things that I can think of. But yeah, so that's the back here. I just have that. I've got a spare 5 litres, and I'll tell you why I've got a spare 5 litres. I wouldn't mind getting a proper mount put here for a jerry can one day. It's a bit difficult for space, as you can see. But I can only fill my tank up halfway, because otherwise it starts leaking. And I know I need a new tank, so Brett, maybe you can help me out on that one as well. Hey guys, just excuse the wind here. We live by the sea, and it's just, yeah, it gets a bit windy, so you're gonna have a bit of wind noise in this video. But yeah, I always carry a spare 5 litres of petrol just in case, because the fuel gauge doesn't work. But I can shake it around and listen for fuel when I need it. So, but always carry a reserve 5 litres just in case I'm out. The filler neck on my tank I think it's just a crack around it. I should replace it. It can be hazardous, I know, but I'll get to that one day. It hasn't been a huge priority. I'll just fill it up, and I've always got my 5 litres here. But yeah, so that's the back. Previous owner had this mount put on. A lot of people asked me about it. He's just made that bracket there, so that all just bolts off. Wheel's in the middle though. I wouldn't mind if the wheel was over here and I can put a jerry can here. These I made myself. I always wanted the original ones, but I can't find it. So I just made these. I think it cost me $10 each to put together. I've got a bolt holding these together because for some reason I have a gap. No one else does. I've looked at every CJ5 on the internet. I've got this gap here and here, so I actually can't clip this around. Anyway, there's more problems in the world to worry about. What else can I show you? Glove box, you know, just put one of these mats in here for some grip, not that it works. I painted the inside of here black. It's all wearing out a bit. Do you know what? There is not much rust in this. I've got a bit of surface rust here and there. I just painted all here with a hand brush, paintbrush, black. Some black seat covers on. These are weatherproof. Painted the roll bar. That used to be marked. I painted the entire vehicle white with a roller brush. It's got that nice matte finish there, you can see. But that's now 2 years old, that paint job. So, yeah, I've got the stone guard covers here. That was already on there. Yeah, the paint, it's a thick, you know, we're up here and it can get a bit rainy and rusty. This paint, I just rolled it on. I think I did the whole car for $30. A few marks, they come off the pressure hose at the car wash. And then I just painted in black. Jeep there. I do have a fastback, which a lot of people are saying is very rare. I've got a fastback soft top, which is, I'll show you in the next video, but it comes right across here and then comes right down. It looks really cool and it's quite different than what I see. I believe it's actually come off one of those Azukis and a guy's made it fit. So, you know, he's put these here. Look, I'm not sure if they're original. If anyone can tell me if these are original, I don't know if someone's put them on or whatever, but the fastback is really cool, the top, and then you've got two zippers here and there, and you can roll the back right up. So I've had issues with this handbrake here, but it seems to be working right now after a few adjustments. The cabling in this, do not look at my wiring, but I am going to show you. There is no fuse box in this at all, and the wiring is so bad. I know it's a fire hazard, but it all works. And this is the thing about this car, you know, I don't want to restore it in terms of, I don't need a $2,000 paint job or a $5,000 paint job, I should say. I don't want all that. I want this to be rustic. I love it the way it is. I don't mind if I mark it, or if you go off-road and something breaks, it does not, or there's chips or marks or dents, does not faze me at all. So I want to keep it rustic, but there's one thing I'm particular about, and that's just that I want everything to work. I've got some spotties here, they're original. Now these shackles here I had custom made because the previous owner did have a shackle lift. So I had originally, which I've still got on the back, let's just come around here. See, I had these shackles as well on the front, and I believe I wanted a bar, that middle bar put in just for some more structural, you know, security. I'm not sure if it's made a huge difference. I got them made. I got them custom made because it is quite hard, because we have the narrow leaf springs. It's quite hard to, especially extended shackles, to get them. But as you can see, the drive shaft is facing like that, and the rear is pointing up. So I've got these shims put in. Try and get a better angle for you. Got those 8-degree shims. I know that's a huge shim, but it works. So as you can see, that's all leaking there. Gas tank's leaking. But hey, it gets me from A to B without catching fire at the moment anyway. Touch wood. What else have we got going on? Again, excuse the wind. Previous owner put this in. Funny story, that got the old resistor here ballast resistor, I believe it's called, that used to go to the old coil to give the old distributor 6 volts. I just realized after 2 years that he still had the resistor powering this, so this was only getting 6 volts. When you put in an HEI, it needs 12 volts. So just remember that, guys. If you put one of these in, 12 volts, that's what you need. Get rid of that resistor. So I just figured that out after 2 years the other day. Put in a new fuel pump, didn't need one, but just put one in anyway. New fuel filter. I like to change the oil on this. It's going to sound ridiculous, but maybe every 2,000-3,000 K, just given that it's, you know, what is it? It's 48, 49 years old, so I just, yeah, I changed the oil. I've used several different oils. I've tried 2050, I believe I've tried 2060. Just recently I've gone to 2040 maybe, and believe it or not, the tick's gone. I used to think that maybe heavier oils would get rid of the tick, but I did put that in and the ticking has minimized. So I get the occasional tick now for maybe 5-10 seconds. But yeah, it was bad. Like, it used to just, even with heavier oil, it used to just tick, tick, tick. I went online, I went on forums, I said, what's with the ticking? And I hear people going, lifters, this, collapse lifters. But a lot of these, you even watch other videos on YouTube of these things on trails, and they're all ticking. Like they're a ticking machine. And maybe that's just the characteristics of the engine. So yeah, try put in some, you can get that lifter oil, you know, get rid of lifter noise stuff. I've used that. Another thing to think about here as well, a lot of people underestimate the PCV valve, PCV valve, whichever one you call it. It is so important because these, especially these motors, they just, I know we got blow by and they're old and this and that, and you know, I hear all that too, but the previous owner had this capped, and there was no release of pressure. We had oil blowing out of the dipstick. The second I put one of these in, it minimized it by about 95%. So I put in a Weber, whatever you guys call it, a Weber 3236, changed the entire car. I know that can be probably a bit too powerful for these motors. I know the 38 Weber is, but the 3236, it's been a game changer on this motor. So I know all this is shonky. Everything in this motor is shonky. I've got JB welding areas. I've got wires hanging out everywhere. I put in a new radiator. There's a story there which I will detail in another video because I want to give people a heads up on these thermostat housings. The previous owner took the thermo out and I didn't know. But the old radiator was that bad that it was compensating to reach temperature because it was leaking and it was dinted here. There were chips and bangs everywhere. It was just crazy. But the old radiator compensated for the thermo, so it would still reach temperature with the old radiator. But I've whacked this one in, grabbed this on eBay for $160, and very easy fit. But I've put this in, and all of a sudden, you know, the car wouldn't go above 60 degrees. I thought, what's going on here? Just did not understand what was going on. Given, you know, I know it was a new radiator, I thought it can't be working that good, like something's going on. Again, I'm not a mechanic. I didn't understand much about thermostats. But I put this in, it was running cold, too cold. I didn't even know what temperature these things should run at. Anyway, I went out and I just bought a 185 Fahrenheit thermo. I know a lot of you will say, hey, you should do a little bit more. I'm up here in a real hot climate. I just want this puppy to keep cool as much as it can because it is old. But did I have trouble with this gasket here? I did it 5 times. I put the new thermostat in. Thermostat worked beautifully, by the way. Gets to optimal temperature everything worked. This thing was just leaking and leaking and leaking and leaking. No joke, I did it I reckon 5 or 6 times that I ended up just buying a new housing, which again, I will detail in another video. Any Aussies out there that have this car, this model and this motor, mate, I have run through so many things with this car. You know, half the stuff you've got to make yourself, do yourself. Mechanics don't even want to know about this stuff. You know, you go, oh yeah, you know, I want to bring in my CJ5, and they go, no, we don't. You know, they don't even know how to work on them. That's what's going on. Yeah, look at all this shonky work here. That's all me. But it runs, and it idles, and it goes, and it doesn't leak too much. But I've done. This still runs off a clutch cable, which I'm surprised about. I would have thought, excuse me, I would have thought that this model would have been hydraulic clutch cable, but I've had not long ago clutch cable snap on me. Again, I didn't even know how the clutch worked or what a clutch cable was. I had a clutch cable custom made. I just brought in the old one to a guy in Cairns. He replicated it for me. But funny story, I put a new cable on and I couldn't clutch in. Like, I thought, it's a brand new cable, it's greased, it's got this, it's got that. It felt so stiff, and I thought, oh, you know what's happened? The clutch cable, you know what's happened? The clutch cable originally broke, probably because the pressure plate or my clutch was gone. So I ordered a whole new clutch. Got a guy around to help me with that one, I will admit, because that's not something I would have tackled on my own. But we put the whole new clutch in, and I thought, oh, this will be better. We spent all day doing this, and I put the cable back onto the linkage, same thing. And I thought, oh no, you know what I'd gone and done? I didn't understand how clutch cables work, but I had zip tied it, and it had restricted the cable, so I actually didn't even need a new clutch. So I've ended up putting a whole new clutch in, which is good anyway, but God, I just positioned the clutch cable wrong. I routed it wrong. So it needs to hang freely. Anyway, that's another one for another story, because I'm going to go into detail how I've done that, because I couldn't find anywhere online. I know a lot of you run hydraulics on this. And look, I'm not even sure what this car is anymore. I've got one person saying, hey, it's a CJ, you know, off the numbers, that it's a CJ6. I've got people going, no, it's a CJ5. But there are parts on this car that are only CJ6s that I can find. Like the clutch setup and all this kind of stuff. And I'm buying parts for a CJ5 for half of it, and a CJ6 for the other half. I'm not sure if someone's mucked around with this or there's bits and pieces everywhere. But again, guys, I'm going to run through all these things. I'm going to have episodes where and that probably won't go for long, you know, 10-15 minutes, but just run through each one of these steps. I'm going to run through driveline angle, you know, the drive shaft angle, I mean, what I did to rectify that, how I did it step by step. I'll talk about the caster and the shims and how I did that step by step. I'll talk about, you know, I'll run through small things. Maybe there are people out there that don't know, you know, just like I did, but maybe I'll run through, you know, putting a new speedometer cable in, you know, putting a tack in, just everything that I've experienced. I'll run through and do an episode of each. But I just wanted to show you, you know, my Jeep. And yeah, by the way, I painted them black, handbrush. You know, so yeah, this is it, guys. Sorry if I've bored you, but I don't see many Australian CJ videos online, so if you Aussies are out there, please comment, share it online. If you've got questions, just ask. I'll do videos on, you know, like I said, if someone could help me through all these things, I would have saved a lot of time. But yeah, here we are. And thanks for watching, guys. And again, any questions, put them in the comments. You can follow me on Instagram. I think it's called the CJ Rig. So I've got all the photos there, also put up some footage of when I first got this, of what it looked like. So I'll try and put up any previous videos that I have. And yeah, we'll go from there. Thanks for watching.